Maria Ann Smythe was born on the 26th of July 1756 in Tongcastle, England. She was the eldest child of Walter Smythe, who was the youngest son of the 3rd Baronet of Acton Burnell. Her mother was Mary Ann Errington, maternal half-sister of Charles William Molyneux, 1st Earl of Sefton. Maria was educated in Paris at a French convent, and at 18 Maria married Edward Weld, 16 years older than her, and a rich Catholic widower. 3 months later Edward Weld fell off his horse and died. Because he had no will, his property and all his belongings went to his brother, and Maria was left destitute. Her best option was to marry again, and 3 years later she married Thomas Fitzherbert. They had a son who died young, and Thomas himself passed away more or less 3 years after their marriage. This time, however, Thomas left Maria an annuity of £1,000, which in today's terms would be about £158,000. He also left her a townhouse in Park Street, Mayfair. About 3 years after Thomas's passing, Maria was introduced to George, the Prince of Wales. He was 6 years younger than Maria, but he fell head over heels in love with her. The prince pursued her endlessly until she agreed to marry him. Secretly, and also against the laws of that time, they got married in the drawing room of her home in Park Street. The marriage ceremony was performed by Reverend Robert Burt, who had his debt settled by Prince George. Her uncle, Henry Errington, and brother John Smythe were the witnesses. The marriage was, however, not legal under English law because it had not received prior approval from King George III and the Privy Council. Had approval been sought, though, permission would likely not have been granted because Maria was Catholic. So even if permission was granted, the Prince of Wales would have been removed from the line of succession, and his brother, the Duke of York, would have replaced him as heir apparent. 9 years later, in 1794, Maria was informed by letter that her relationship with the prince was over. George told his brother that they parted amicably. George also had a debt of nearly £600,000, which in today's terms would have been nearly £87 million. And if he married Duchess Caroline of Brunswick, it would be paid off for him as wedding gift. So the prince married Caroline in April 1795. A year later, after Caroline gave birth to their daughter, Princess Charlotte of Wales, the Prince of Wales wrote his last will and testament, leaving all his worldly goods to, and I quote, "my Maria Fitzherbert, my wife, the wife of my heart and soul." Of course, this reminds one of the story told of the then Prince Charles, who left to go see Camilla only hours after Harry was born. But let's continue. 3 years after their marriage, Prince George was separated from Caroline and bored with his mistress, the Countess of Jersey. After becoming regent, George invited Maria to the Carlton House fete, but when she discovered that he seated her at a lower table, she refused to attend. Once he became King George IV, he publicly denounced Maria, claiming that the union was an artificial marriage and just to satisfy her. As a result, Her demands for annuity payments were often accompanied by threats to go public with her paperwork if she did not receive the funds. When the king was sick and dying, he eagerly received her get-well-soon card, and after reading it, placed it under his pillow. Before his death, he also asked to be buried with Maria's eye miniature around his neck, and it was done. Following his death, it was discovered that King George kept all Maria's letters. Maria also came out and showed George's brother, the then King William, the documents in her possession. King William IV felt very bad for her and begged her to accept the title of Duchess, but she refused, and all she asked was to be allowed to wear widow's weeds. Maria died at age 80, and she was buried at St. John the Baptist Church in Brighton, a church largely built with funds donated by Maria. The memorial sculpture of Maria shows her wearing 3 wedding rings. It is also said that Maria had 1, possibly 2 children by her marriage to George. Allegedly, the children were adopted out. Upon her death, it was claimed that a Scottish family by the name of Wyatt adopted a child or children from her, and later J.G. Wyatt moved to Moose Jaw, Saskatchewan, Canada. Truth or fiction? Well, a Wyatt descendant did try and claim some of Maria's estate, but for all intents and purposes, I cannot find any trace of that anywhere. Maybe they were paid off and told to go away. So that was the story of Maria Fitzherbert, a rather tragic tale of 2 lovers. And with that, back to our regular posts. So guys, take care of yourselves until we meet again on the next one. Bye.